How do you explain the success of Scandinavian cinema and series like Millennium, Borgen, The Killing, and The Bridge?
Well, for one thing, I think that The Killing and Borgen is two very different things because I think, to my memory, The Killing was an instant success all around the world because it's crime, basically, while Borgen was totally unexpected. Nobody I think it wasn't even intended to go outside Denmark. It was for the national scene, there's a funny story about it because we were all gathered together, the team for making Borgen, and then they told us that if we wanted to jump ship and get off, the time was now because we would we would lose our jobs. We would never get jobs anymore. The press would hate us. The audience would hate us. The politicians would hate us. Everybody would say, no, it's not like that. And so, of course, we said, no, we're staying. We're going to do the best we can. And we stayed, and yet, there was this Borgen as something to export. You must be joking. And then it happened, so it wasn't really expected.
Can you tell me the appeal of your music and like Fran's music? Because we have now series all over the world who try to copy the style of your music, I think.
Oh, interesting. Well, maybe we should start with the series themselves, because I think what we do in the Nordic countries is that we keep it very simple, and we undertell the stories, and we're quite impressionist in a way that Franz has this very good story about, because he made the remake of The Killing in America, and they focus on totally different things in America, which is very explicit. So I think that's what we do in Scandinavia. And we don't have these very huge budgets for making stuff. So we have to focus on the psychology and focus on the scripts. I think we're making very good scripts. And I think that's the main difference. And the fact that the film is impressionist makes the music impressionist. So... And it just dawned on me today, actually, that there's very little blues in what we do compared to American music. But I could probably speak for hours about this, The thing is, I'm quite flattered. If anybody wants to copy me, I think it's great. But the thing is that this is the ball that we throw back and forth because, when I came to London, I had a London agent, and he said, "What's happening? We're sitting at home Saturday after Saturday watching Borgen with subtitles, for Christ's sake. What's happening?" And I said, well, what's happening is that we nicked all this from BBC and turned it into our own thing. And now you nick it from us and turn it into your thing. And it goes back and forth. To my belief, most of what we do in Scandinavia, or in the Nordic countries, it comes from Great Britain.
Coming back to Borgen, how did you get the job?
Usually you pitch for something and you're invited to pitch for a series, which I was. And I think the director who pulled it all together, he took a great bag of CDs and went to his summer cottage and isolated himself for a week and heard music. And, apparently what I did appealed to them, because it's not something that we talk about. You get the job or you don't. So I wouldn't know, but I did a lot with a guy called Per Fly. I don't know if it ever reached Germany. And I think that's what I played to him, and I think he liked that. It's about imagination. He wanted something that I could provide, I think.
Did they say to you, we want a certain style of music, or give you some guidelines?
Well, actually, we started talking music at the script level. All we had was the scripts. And we agreed that we wanted something substantial, like classical instrumentation. We wanted something to illustrate. This is, This is about politics and tradition and values and consistency in a country. So it's very heavy and very, how do you call it, unchangeable. I mean, it's made out of rock and oak tree and tradition was kind of the key words. And at the same time, we have all this taking place in the media house, which is sort of ambient, more watery, and that's what we knew we wanted. And from there on, well, it took some time to find out how to do it.
Did you try to use leitmotifs?
No, actually, I was more concerned about the drive of the whole series, because what they do in this series is that they talk, they walk and they talk, and there's no car chase, there's no killings, there's no police, you know. Really, there's not much going on in the picture, but you know there's something going on in the heads of these people. They're very ambitious, they're very concerned. And I didn't know what to do. It was quite frustrating. I tried everything and it didn't really turn right out until I discovered that thriller music made you, stand on your toes and understand that this meant something.
Did you use temp tracks?
Well, no, actually we didn't. Not at all. And that's usually the hard part, because you have to invent everything. Whereas temp music, then you find something that works and you stick to that terrain. No temp music. We had to do it the hard way.
Did you compose music when you got the script, or did you wait for a rough cut of an episode?
Well, usually when you do a TV series, you make a library of music that you give to the editors, and then they edit the film, and then you get everything back, and then you finish the job, which is what we did here as well.
Organ was a success. Had it some kind of an impact on the music that you got a higher budget for the next season?
No. Actually, because nobody expected this to explode like it did. It was like, okay, we're doing this for the Danish audience, and we're happy if they like that. And then, during the first season, when news started arriving that people wanted it outside Denmark, it was like, yeah, great. And then we made the second season of it. Everything was great. Then we had to make the third series. And at that point, we had so high expectancies around us. It was a nightmare, really, I promise you, nightmare. But the same budget.
It's a pity, yeah.
Yeah, well, but I mean, I made quite a few falls during the way. I started out going to Prague, recording strings, 50 people, in a concert hall, and it just didn't work. And that's, I would have expected it to work because we wanted that. But it was just too melodramatic or sort of romantic, like Gone with the Wind. And this is about cynicism and coldness, and so I had to go home and scratch the whole thing and just do it with samplers, and then it worked. Crazy. So I didn't really need a budget for 200 strings,
How much time did you had to finish an episode, and how much music was in an episode, if you remember?
Well, that's pretty standard. We have about 2 weeks' time we get the picture lock, which is the final edited. Yeah, exactly. And then we have 2 weeks to work the thing together and sit down with the director and say, is it what you expected? And yes and no and push and pull and all that.
How does it work? What comes first in a way? Dialogue or music when it's a certain scene and you thought maybe it needs some dramatic score?
I think it's an ongoing process, really, that starts the moment the editors start editing, because they start putting things together and they find out, oh, we expected this to work, but it doesn't. On the other hand, this works. And it works with this music, and we didn't expect that as well. And then you have the director coming in and saying, well, we can't hear the dialogue. And you don't really know when you start. You don't really know what's inside that box. You have to just start digging. And in the end, this is a very word-driven series. I mean, So of course, it's very vital that you can hear what they say, and that demands something from the music. But what the music does is that it makes a pace underneath. It stays like this all the time and stresses you like this all the time because it's stressful. So we really had to work to put that together.
According to the IMDb, you started working on short films, composing
Yes.
music. Why was it kind of a friend asks you do my music, do the music for my film?
Actually, I think it's a very good way to learn how to make films, and I would have, probably died from making a series like Borgen from 3 years of experience. I mean, I made short films for like 8 years before I made my first feature film, and that was because you wouldn't let somebody make a feature film unless he knows what he's doing. At least not in Denmark.
Not only there.
Not anywhere, I think. You wouldn't do that. You would let people learn the trade, and then you would gradually accept them, let them make a small feature film, then a large feature film, and then TV series maybe.
Maybe it's better for you if you didn't go to, I don't know, film music school and learn the craft for 3 years, because maybe then you would be classical trained, and it's kind of, you have this classical music in your head, but you are more open for different music.
Yeah, well, that's an ongoing discussion, isn't it? We will never end it because who's best, the artist that went to school or the one that didn't and had to invent everything by himself. My education was rock music and pop music, and then I went to the Rhythmic Conservatory in Copenhagen and studied what was more like jazz music. But I think what takes me through the day is my I'm very curious. I'm like, oh, what's that kind of music? Oh, it's African. Oh, but it's African rock, and they do it totally different. And that's what fires me up. That I really want to master everything. Probably.
Was jazz helpful for a series that wasn't here shown in Germany, Bader Hotelet?
You mentioned the hotel by the sea. I think it's the seaside hotel. It's vital to the seaside hotel because just like what's that American series called? The Boardwalk
Empire.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, this Boardwalk Empire. Exactly. You're right. That series. I mean, it's the same period. It's the 20s. But it's on the more lighter side in the Hotel by the Sea, and I can't understand why it's not in Germany yet. And it's a huge success in Denmark. The thing about the Seaside Hotel is that it's very light. It's not this series means a lot to me, so it's not like it's superfluous, but it's just very beautiful colors and there's no crime in it. And it's jazz music, so it's really enjoyable, and that apparently is what a lot of Danes like right now, because we have these silly politics. I mean, and it's a crazy thing going on in the government. So people want to escape, but it's a very nice series, and it was so much fun to do jazz music for a series.
I think if you ask people from East Germany, the one thing that they know is the Olsenbanden films, because it was a huge success in East Germany.
Yes, I know.
Everybody knows the music, and I don't know, this is what they know from Danish comedy.
Yeah, and it's a great place to start, actually, the Olsenbanden. Absolutely. Yeah, so it's in the same vein, you could say.
I read also that you try to use some different instruments from different places. Why do you look for a kind of different sound?
Well, I think all of us look for different sounds and I think it all comes down to that you have a very picky audience. We all use the media so much, so we know all the tricks. We have seen everything by now and heard everything. So what we do is we try to come up with something new to get hold of the audience, right?
Did you?
But of course, I mean, I'm also curious. I like new sounds. It's sort of a archaeological, oh, I discovered something. Whoa!
If you think about sounds and music for TV or film, what goes through your mind first? You look for an instrument with a location, or just go with the feeling of the character?
It really depends on what I'm doing, because you haven't got. Yeah, I couldn't say, I couldn't pick out two series or films that were the same. It's so much to what works. Have you seen The Knicks? I think it's an HBO series.
About lawyers?
No, it's in a hospital in the start of the 19th century.
I remember. No,
And it's a very historical setting in I think it's in New York actually.
Yeah, in the 20s, I think.
Yeah, but the music, it's something. It's like counterpoint. It's electronic music from 2015, and that works. And I think nobody expected that to work. So I mean, you have to, every time you start up a new film project, you have to throw all the balls up into the air and see what happens when they fall down, because it's a game, isn't it? You know, you see a movie and you want to experience something new you wouldn't expect, and that's what we have to provide as filmmakers. So to get back to your question, I'm sorry, I'm drifting. Your question was
certain instruments, trying to find instruments.
I'm sorry, I'm deeply sorry about this. It happens all the time. It was a very good question, so I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
I think you were asking how to start up, if you go by motif or...
Yeah, how do you start? Because some people read the script and they go with a feeling or flow with the story, and others think, it's take place in a certain time, a certain place, and let's try an instrument from that time that is recognizable, that nobody knows now, but in the 1900s or in 1920 it was very well used.
Well, I really think it depends on what you're doing, because if you have a film from, say, the 20s, the first idea would be to go with jazz music or the instruments from that time. But then you discover that this series is about narcotics. And then you start saying, oh, I could do music that was more like sort of the feeling you have when you have taken something that drugs you down. Like have you seen the film Traffic? It's really ambient music, nearly no rhythm, very, very beautiful, I think. But very much like you must have it when you have taken drugs. But then you figure out, oh, no, you shouldn't go that direction. You should go with the fact that it takes place in Ireland. So it must be Irish music. I mean, it's a game like that, isn't it? It really boils down to where you end with all these ideas. You say, okay, it has to be ambient with an Irish twist or something.
About ideas, when you have a very good idea, but you know it doesn't fit a series, do you keep it in mind or throw it away?
Well, what I do, and I think that's very common to us film composers, is that I record every idea in some kind or another, and then I put it down into my desk. And whenever I need ideas, I have a library to pull the ideas from. Because when you do a series and you have to deliver music, every 2 weeks you have to deliver something, you really need a library. But it's different, most of my music I compose on my bike, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I do. For some reason, whenever I step out and I take my bike and I have to go to my studio, and I know I'm going to do something for this film, and ideas start popping up when I bike. And then it always...
Do you hum them in your iPhone? Or?
Yeah, I start humming them, and then I take my phone at some point and record it, because I have to remember it,
What is kind of strange is, yesterday I read an article online that there is a theater play of Borgen here in Berlin.
Yeah, I read that as well.
Is there a theater play of Borgen in Denmark?
No, but I know it's in Germany, and I think it's in Holland as well. They have another one in Holland. Yeah. Interesting.
Did they ask you about using your music or record some music for a theater play?
I think, when I discovered it, it was already too late. I should have called them and say, "Hey, do you need music? Can I peddle you some music?" Yeah. I think it's the same thing happened to the party. Have you seen that Festen? The Danish film called Festen. It's been set up as a theater play in lots of different cities. I think that's what happens when something gets popular, isn't it?
Another film that is, I think, shown yearly on German public television is Populärmusik von Vitola.
Is that so?
Yeah, it was on TV, I think, on ZDF Neo a month ago or so every year, nearly every year.
Why is that?
I don't know.
I didn't know that.
Can you talk a little bit about the music for the film?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This was a popular music from Vitola. Is it's a fantastic book, and I always loved that book. So when I was approached and would you like to do music for that, I was like, oh yes, really. But it's very hard. It's very hard to do a straight copy from the book. You have to write a new script. So the script turned out to something different. And this Iranian instructor, that's the Danish word for it. The director, he had all kinds of strange ideas about the music. Really, really good ideas, but really different ideas. So actually, most of my demos for that film is like humming and he wanted all kinds of, really Nordic music to be in that movie.
What is better for you, if the director gives you a straight guideline? Because sometimes a composer prefer that. It's easier for them, or is it not so easy for you?
I had a discussion with a director in Tallinn a few months back, and he said, when I hire a composer, I just want her or him to do what they're good at. And I don't want to have anything to do with the music because I know what they're doing already. So they should just do what they're doing. And other directors, it's a thing you have to discuss before you start working. To me, I'm always very, I really listen to the director because usually directors have working 4 years on a film before they start shooting it. So they have really good ideas about what they want. And you have to listen. The film music is a tool, like the light or the sound. We should enhance the film. So we need to know what we're doing.
Is it hard for you to get the music released? I don't know. How about the rights in Denmark?
The thing is actually that I have my own record company called plantsounds.net. And we released Borgen and the Seaside Hotel and a lots of other Scandinavian films. And we've only done that for 2 years, so we're quite young, quite small, but we're building. And luckily, most of the Danish film companies want to join us because I think there's very little money in what we do. We're very idealistic about what we do. And we do it because we love film music. So, well.
What do you think of YouTube? Because if I put in Borgen or some other series or your name, I get lots of music. So original soundtrack with your name and from Borgen and so on. What are you doing against that?
Well, it's very hard to control, and to some extent, YouTube is very good for the community. I use it myself all the time. But you get very little money from YouTube, while they're actually streaming music, and a lot of young people only listen to YouTube. So it's very tough. It's an ongoing discussion in EU how we can force them to pay for it. Because I love the channel, it's just that they don't pay.